let's talk about the pros, maybe cons,
Okay.
of living in Seoul, South Korea. So, love Korea. We're not in Seoul, but you obviously lived in Seoul. I visited Seoul many times. And we're gonna dive into the uniqueness of Seoul,
Sure.
all the good. And did you know that actually Seoul itself doesn't have like the most foreigners? It's like Gyeonggi-do province does.
Oh, I think
Which is kind of, yeah, it's like the,
it makes sense. It's cheaper to live in Gyeonggi-do,
Right.
but most of them hang out in Seoul.
everyone hangs out in Seoul.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you live in Gyeonggi-do, you're not gonna hang out in Gyeonggi-do. You're gonna all go to Seoul and hang out and come back, right?
Right.
Yeah, I see. That makes sense.
Okay, so the first pro of living in Seoul, let's talk about the convenience. David, when you lived in Seoul, was there like any convenience differences between Seoul and Busan? I can think of a couple. What about you?
Just a few, but it's not a whole lot different because Busan itself is a pretty big city.
It is. It is.
But when it comes to variations, Seoul is a little more different.
Absolutely.
So in Busan, if you've been living here for a while, you'll know where is what, so it's comfortable. But in Seoul,
You're gonna find new things all the
yeah,
time.
new things all the time. So like 5-minute walk from you, 10-minute walk from you, and if you decide to travel a little bit, 30-minute away from you, you're gonna see a whole lot of new things,
Right.
new places to check out.
Right.
And every now and then something closes and something pops up open.
Right.
So there's always new things for you to check out. So when it comes to convenience, it's endless.
I'll say this about Seoul. They have all the embassies.
Ah, that's true.
So I had to like renew my passport or get some like paperwork. They have a Canadian consulate in Busan, but it was closed during COVID, and I had to go to Seoul just to get some like paperwork, right? And I will say this: if you are a foreigner watching, and chances are, if there's an embassy, if your country's embassy is in Korea, chances are it's in Seoul,
Yeah.
right? And that goes for a bunch of other services and whatnot. If it's in Korea, chances are it's going to be in Seoul.
That is true. Yeah, consulate services. I've used that as well. I emailed them and they said, come to Seoul. So I guess I have to make my move to Seoul.
All right, let's talk about the art scene, music scene, and let's talk about food in Seoul.
All right, let's start with the art scene. You guys like to go to museums, photo exhibitions, concert halls, and things like that. A ton more in Seoul, that's for sure.
Definitely.
I'm not a whole lot of art guy.
Sure.
So I don't go to museums a whole lot, but I see on TV at least a lot of these nice looking exhibitions where you can go on a date with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, and cool looking sculptures and
Right.
exhibitions. They're all based in Seoul. I've seen some in Busan as well, but like Seoul has a lot more.
Seoul has a lot of subculture, right? Like indie culture. If you go to Hongdae nighttime, they have like busking, and they're actually really good.
Oh, yeah.
They have their own little art scene in there and their own little flavor in Seoul, which you're not gonna get in Busan. I'm a Busan advocate, but there's definitely things in Seoul, art-wise, that you're just not gonna have and see in Busan.
For sure.
And that's definitely one of them. Another thing I want to mention is the music. I got friends who like love indie rock or like house music, and you can't find those kind of clubs or social scenes outside of Seoul. They're usually only in Seoul.
Right.
Right. So if you have like I know one friend who loves house music, right? You can't find a house party thing
yeah.
going on here in Busan, but in
That's
Seoul, they're gonna have it. Also, if you love concerts, and the big artist, if a big artist comes to Korea, that's even kind of huge enough. They're not going to any other city but Seoul,
Right.
right? So if there is a concert happening, chances are it's gonna happen in Seoul.
Yeah, that's the thing. Even with food as well, you might have heard about Tim Hortons coming to Korea. Guess where they're going first? Seoul. So everything starts from Seoul.
And then
So,
it spreads out, right?
a week ago, I actually had Gordon Ramsay's burger in Shinsegae here.
Right.
Obviously, it started opened in Seoul first.
Then
They test the waters out, I guess, and then they look at other cities, and then they come to Busan. So if you are into top
Food?
trending food from famous chefs around the world, chances are Seoul first, And then Busan.
Five Guys, man. They got
Daegu.
Five Guys.
They have Five Guys
They got
there?
Five Guys in Seoul, man.
But we got 2 guys here.
Not enough.
That's more than it.
No. Let's move on to networking and career opportunities. Usually all the headquarters, major corporations, international meetups and conferences are usually located in Seoul. I think that's the main reason why people move to Seoul is for career opportunities.
Yeah.
Especially for foreigners. Foreigners that want to get into entertainment. I know some actors and some models. You got to be in the capital, right? You can make a scene for yourself outside, but you're kind of going against the waters there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I did my master's in international relations, and I'm not going to talk about any theories or anything per se, but one of the reasons why Seoul is Seoul, why everyone goes to Seoul is because all the top universities are in Seoul. All the young folks are there who are the future of the Korean society. Meaning all the major corporations are going to stay there and have all the entertainment, all the food in Seoul.
Kind of keep them there.
Yeah, so one of the solutions that professors always talk about is to move the campuses, the main campuses of the large, big universities down to rural areas. Then all the students and the young folks and the young adults will move down as well naturally.
Right.
But that's never going to happen.
It's not bad in theory.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think it could work.
Yeah.
But who wants to be the first students to like go through that? Because it would pick up over time. You would get all the scenes, right?
Sure.
But who wants to be the first? Definitely not me. You mentioned a great point. I was in Seoul maybe like 4 or 5 months ago for a wedding.
Yeah.
And I was with a friend, and they mentioned like, there's so many young people here, right? Love Busan, but I've noticed too, it's just there's an older population here. And a lot of the younger people do reside in Seoul because even some of our friends, they leave Busan for Seoul. And my friends tell me the only reason why I moved to Seoul is because of the career opportunities,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And actually, I know a lot of Seoul people want to move to Busan. Busan's like their favorite city, but it's just, the career, the money, the opportunities, they're all resided in Seoul.
For sure.
So if you're looking for career opportunities, definitely you want to move to Seoul.
Yeah, that's definitely a big pro there.
Okay.
All right. Also, let's talk about maybe the unique neighborhoods of Seoul.
David, so you lived in Seoul for 2 years. Tell us some of your favorite neighborhoods in Seoul.
Well, I lived in Gangnam. I lived in Gangnam, which
Gangnam
is like
style?
the hot place of Seoul. That's where you want to live because,
What were you doing in Gangnam?
huh?
What were you doing over there?
I was just working for a company.
Okay.
Nothing special.
All right.
Just an office job, Just doing paperwork, sending emails to people.
I see.
But the lifestyle I had in Gangnam was different. It's because you have access. You're in close vicinity to other, hot places.
Like?
Gangnam's it's a big district. I lived in like Gangnam Gucheong area.
Okay.
The office area. There's the Cheongdam there.
Oh,
Cheongdam,
right.
Fancy
It's a
place.
place, right.
And then you have the
Acupuncture, like where the celebrities hang out. I forgot the name.
I have no idea.
But yeah, go on.
There's some other area there I forgot.
It's been a while, right?
Yeah, it's been a while. I forgot as well. I think it was close to like Kondae as well, like a big university area as well. I think it was far from like Hongdae, but
I heard of some triangle or something like that they have.
But
right?
the thing about Seoul is wherever you live, you have access to hot locations, like popular locations. Whereas in other cities, you probably only have 1 or 2 hot locations
That's
to check
right,
out.
right.
But in Seoul, pretty much everywhere you go or wherever you live,
It's
you
kind of
can
hot
go.
itself,
Yeah, it's
right?
hot, yeah. So let's say in Busan there's 16 districts, right? Let's say in Seoul they have 16 districts. 80% is probably a hot place.
Right.
Busan, sadly, only 2.
Right. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
When I was in Seoul, even though you're not in like the main area, your neighborhood has its own vibe.
Yeah.
Has its own like
Color,
character.
culture, right.
Right. Right. So of course we have the Gangnam, we have the Itaewon, of course the Hongdaes, right? Even like Itaewon itself is kind of a unique place itself. It's like known for foreigners.
Multiculturality.
Right.
Yeah.
You can get African food there.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? So that's like, and you're not gonna get that in other cities. You're just not gonna get that much concentration. And that kind of segues into our last pro is the bigger foreigner community.
Oh yeah, that's something you just cannot neglect because you have everywhere that's poppin', everywhere that people likes to check out.
Right.
You have a community where you can rely on. You can ask for them for help.
Right. It's there.
Yeah, they'll reach out. They'll help you out, and you can make friends easier that way.
So with the bigger foreigner community, it goes back to the networking, right? So if you're trying to be a model, you want to be where the other models are, or the other foreign models are, right? And that itself creates more opportunities for everybody.
Yeah.
Like when I go to the first time I went to Seoul, and I went to Itaewon, and I came up from the stairs, subway stairs, I'm like, am I in New York? That's literally what I thought.
Oh yeah.
Right? And so you do get the huge diversity of people. And you get some people, I met some people in Itaewon, they're like, I don't need to leave Itaewon. Like I work in Itaewon, I party in Itaewon, everything I need is in this little neighborhood, so I don't need to leave.
Cool.
Right? So you have your options.
Yeah.
Right. So David, who would you recommend Seoul for?
You know, Seoul, I think, is for many people. But let me just say, if you are visiting Korea for the first time, you're visiting Korea for the first time, and you want to know the culture, you want to delve into the entertainment, the food, the social parts of it. It's good for a short-term stay, I think. Short-term stay, Seoul is good. But if you want to like settle down,
For sure.
you want to, I don't know, have a family, or you have a family, you want to live here for long term, there are better cities, I think.
All right.
I'm not going to say what, but there are better cities.
That kind of gonna segue into the cons. That we will do the cons in our next week, in our next week's show. But I want to recommend Seoul for young people coming for a year or two and want to experience some of the nightlife, party life, fast life. Want a totally different experience. I definitely recommend Seoul for people who have lived in a small city, maybe a rural city back home, and just want a total 180 change in their life. Come to Seoul, right? It's definitely not for everybody, but it is the capital for a reason, right? So I definitely recommend Seoul for a lot of people. And then you can always travel around, but you know if something's happening, it's gonna happen first in Seoul.
Yeah.
Right? All right. So if you liked this episode, please like, subscribe, share with your friends, and let us know in the comments, did we get it right about Seoul? Did we get it wrong? Did we miss anything? And don't worry, next week we're gonna turn into haters and tell you all the cons about Seoul.
Oh, next video is going to pop.
Oh, it's gonna pop.
Yeah, we're going to disable the comment section.
Oh no, I don't mind. I don't mind a little fight in the comment section.
I'm just kidding. I don't even check those sections.